So I work for Bentley Systems, and I'd like to introduce shortly my company. And you all think Bentley Systems is this, correct? The Bentley name with a nice car. I'm sorry for today, that is not really true. This is our logo, and our company is called Bentley Systems. So the area that we are working in is infrastructure. And what we are trying to achieve is basically, with the software that we offer, to help you design, build, but also operate infrastructure. Infrastructure that can sustain the economy, also sustain the infrastructure, obviously, for quality of life. This means that we're taking care of all the phases that infrastructure goes through. And for today, I'd like to comment a little on that infrastructure that we and you are working on. So if you want to know about our infrastructure, we are for many years already publishing books. And the last book, this one, is what is in the coffee corner, and you can find some samples of the projects that our users have been doing with Bentley software. So Bentley has a lot of different areas, different infrastructures, if you want to see like that we offer software for. It may be buildings, it may be underground piping, it may be production of energy, like power or gas or pump oil or distribute oil. And for each of that applications, we have software that's been displayed here, and we help our users by selecting those in so-called project playbooks. Now, this is the last slide about Bentley. We are a global company. We have our software distributed all over the world. And last year, we made $650 million US revenue combined over United States, Europe, Asia. So for today, if we look at assets, and then the title of this conference is Beyond BIM. So listening a little bit to the previous speaker, the word BIM, I believe, is pretty known to you. At least I must conclude that. Not all the countries that we are working in, BIM is such a very important topic. And you have listened to the .com and .org and the UK, etc. And certainly that's obviously where the BIM concept comes from. And if you look at Wikipedia, then you would understand, and I like this explanation, that BIM software is, now it's not directly for building, as the word building information modeling, the original term, is suggesting. It's for all physical infrastructure. And interesting, they start with water, electricity, gas, communication utilities, and then roads, bridges, ports, tunnels, and I would say also buildings, right? So this whole area of technology that we are talking about today is, directed towards digital models about any sort of infrastructure. So if we look at that BIM implementation strategy, it is actually starting from the years that we have all experienced in the 90s when we started with CAD. And so the first level of BIM basically is what we are all doing for many years, MicroStation, AutoCAD, drawing of infrastructure in 2D. And that obviously went further. And if we look into the Bentley portfolio from the last, may I say, 30 years already, we have been working in that area, offering MicroStation. I think it's a well-known product here. There will be a lecture on MicroStation that has the modeling capabilities for BIM, as well as ProjectWise, which has the data management capabilities for BIM information. So the BIM part, of course, is the 2D, 3D models. It's also about the collaboration and the data management. So recapping, 2D BIM is what we know here. We have some kind of a model. It's actually not in 3D, but 2D, and we have schematics, or we have, for instance, a map, of course, also 2D. Those are all aspects of the assets that we want to bring into that model. 3D, obviously, and if you look into level 2 of BIM, then we'd say it's not only the 3D drawing, but it is all the intelligence that comes with the model, including the use of standards of the specific discipline that we're working in. So if we look at BIM level 2, there's also, I mean, apart from the levels, there are the 2D, 3D, 4D, 5D, 6D, and 7D, and you have to consult the org websites in order to understand that well. But the 4D is actually identified as the timing of your project, 5D as the cost of your project, and 6D more towards the operation and maintenance. And obviously we offer tools for that 5D, 4D, 5D, 6D area, right? So a very important thing then, if you're talking about BIM, is that phase that the assets are when they are in operation. So your design phase is just maybe a year or 2 years. Your operation phase is maybe 10, 20, 30 years of your assets, right? So the performance of your assets actually should be the goal of your whole BIM process. And then when you're using your assets, there you come into the area of the 6D and even 7D, where you need to know everything about your assets in order to increase the performance. A very important concept of that is the common data environment. Again, also that you can see if you would look for that term. The common data environment is basically that you know where all the information of your assets are, and that is specifically what Bentley is working on in the current software set. So looking again back to that picture of the implementation phases, you have design applications. You design your towers, your plants, your underground infrastructures, mostly with CAD software as a basis, right? MicroStation in Bentley's case. Then you have your management of all that information, of the designs, of the PDFs, of the legal requirements, of anything that is important in that process. Also, between different users of the software, we have our ProjectWise tool for that. The last one now is including all the integration phase that is needed for the operations, and that's our software tool, AssetWise. So you'll find that as the topics of this presentation today. So the design application, you'll see a lot of that today. ProjectWise is something that's not so much addressed, I guess. If you're interested, I can. But I will show you some examples of our AssetWise product line. So we started to understand that if you're talking about assets or about the BIM, you're talking basically about the life cycle of assets, right? So it is an idea, you need to build something, someone has, you know, an idea from we need 10 more connections or we have to build a new Olympic park, anything in between, but the idea is the starting, and that's the conceptual phase. And then you go through all those phases and ultimately maintaining and maybe demolition. So that whole life cycle is not only for buildings, it's for, again, all types of infrastructure, right? So if you're electric cable or gas cable, okay, electric cable, that may take 100 years, but at some point you need to remove it, replace it, expand it, etc. So that also is a life cycle. If you have equipment, pumping station, transformers, etc., those will be subject to their life cycles of maintenance, demolition, and creation of new infrastructure. So there's actually no infrastructure that escapes from this picture, right? So, and that is why BIM is applicable to all kinds of infrastructure. So ProjectWise, as I said to you, is a design management environment. AssetWise is an asset information management tool. Now, the lines that you see on this slide is the life cycle, right? So from design to construction to commission, operation, maintenance, and decommission. So we can show it as a circle, but we can also show it as a line, right? So basically, it starts with the construction, design and construction phase. Again, here you'd see those signs for MicroStation and ProjectWise, the icons. As well as that we are promoting within that common data environment the AssetWise tools. So while MicroStation, let's say, stops at the construction site, AssetWise spans all the area. Now, during the lifetime, of course, the design comes in again, and there are modifications, and you will have to bring in your design tools again. So the whole idea of AssetWise basically is to be a foundation from the early start to the end of the asset life, including any kind of the modification phases. So let's look at the tools that we have available for the asset life cycle in this case. Important is, if you're thinking about assets, you're thinking about asset management. Now, there are a number of topics here that I'm not going to go into detail that describe the aspects of asset management. Right, so there's a very important thing here in the left corner. Is the customer satisfied, let's say, with the quality and the price he pays? That may be the ultimate goal, right? So, and the rest needs to be balanced. You also, as a company, need to be satisfied because you have your margins to make and your goals. But there are a number of questions that you will ask yourself when you're having assets in order to improve your processes or lower your costs. So, and here are, in that case, the 5 I's: infrastructure, inspection, incident, interventions, and inhabitants. Those topics within the asset management discipline are important to look at. So, for instance, what do I have? Where is it? What is the condition? How long will it live? When will it break? Or if there's operating equipment, can I predict when it will break because I have sensors? Or what kind of strategies do I have in terms of maintenance to prevent that? Or if I do an inspection, like in wastewater, what is actually the condition? Can I measure the condition of my network? And of course, lastly, who are my customers? What am I going to deliver? Right, so for a utility customer, obviously, that is all of us, because we're all customers. For a water treatment plant, maybe that's just one customer. But anyway, this is the area that you need to work on and have tools in order to answer those questions. So if I look at the innovation themes that we see today in that area, there are actually 3 topics. One is to demonstrate how BIM is important, and I would say I think this conference itself is a proof of that whole exercise. Then the second one is the importance of reality modeling, and we will see a lot of demonstration of that happening today. And for our side, we believe it's important to look at the convergence of information technology, operational technology, and engineering technology. So if I look at of those areas, then basically the topics that we are looking at is first information technology. That, for my understanding, is the desktops, application servers, enterprise resource planning, etc. So that's all that whole information technology area that we are usually used to work with. And you have, for instance, your customer information system. In there you know about your customers. You have maybe your assets there described. So that's one angle of the asset information management environment. Then a second aspect is operational technology. It could be, for instance, bringing you information through SCADA, right? So any kind of sensors on temperature or vibration or moisture, etc. So that is real-time information, as big data if you want to, about your assets, right? And then there's a third one. That is what you have done in your, let's say, earlier BIM areas, when you have made digital models of your infrastructures, right? All the 3D or maybe even 2D drawings that you have of your network and your pumping stations and everything, what have you. Those are all different areas, you could say, of application of information management that ideally you would bring together in order to enhance your performance of your assets, right? So this is our view. So not only that, it is actually also, as we see in the future, also cloud-based, right? So most of that technology needs to be available certainly on a web interface, but also as a cloud service in the future, as an industry trend that is very clear. So looking at the product AssetWise then, so that I mentioned it before, that product portfolio actually is directed towards each of those areas. And I will explain some of them for you in more detail. Asset lifecycle information management, reliability, work management, operational analytics, performance modeling, and integration. So we're looking through a number of them. First one, asset lifecycle information management. I think that is the core idea of AssetWise. I'm not going to go into all the details of each of those components because I also want to show some videos to you. Here's the important concept of AssetWise ALIM. You have your physical assets, that is the stuff that you have in operation, that you can actually go to and touch and change and listen to, etc. That's your physical asset. Now, very important is the information about that asset, right? So that is in all those different information systems, in engineering models, in sensors, etc. So the information of that asset in itself is also an asset, right? So you have the physical asset, you think it's important, but the information asset, the documentation of that asset, is as important, as valuable as the actual asset. If you don't have the information, you almost don't have the physical asset. That's our idea behind it, right? So actually, if you have assets, there's people working on it. They are part of an organization. The assets are part of the requirements that they have been made for. There are projects that they're undergoing. There are documents about the assets and their location. And all of that is actually relating to each other in that whole environment of IT, OT, and ET. So we want to make sure that we cover, and we do that with AssetWise ALIM, all those different information sources, basically. So if you have a range of assets, for instance, if it's displayed like this, you have information on where it is. That might be in one system, or it might be a GIS, or maybe if it's equipment, it may be in a database. And you have a functional description somewhere on what the assets are designed to do, or what type of assets they are. Right? So there are different views and different information systems all on the same asset, and that is something that is possibly creating problems in the information storage. So as an example, you have the asset inventory, for instance, so that may be SAP or ideally our system. There is a serial number on a certain asset, but as a part of the maintenance strategy, there may be a replacement of that asset because it's defect, right? So, and then you're going to change it, similar model, but different serial number, obviously, right? So you have a change, and the 1, 2, 3 becomes 4, 5, 6. So usually we have then the problem, if the maintenance strategy has led to a replacement, does the asset inventory actually know it, right? So that is an implementation of the information strategy that you need to perform. The other way around, you can decide on your inventory side that all equipment of a certain type needs to be replaced by from a V2 to the V3. So then you have to move and implement that change. So basically, the whole management of those changes and information in different areas of work, right? So let's say central office and the actual people who do the work is a very crucial thing. And with AssetWise, we try to cover all those areas, right? So if we look at the user interface of AssetWise, we'll see assets here. We see activities, we see reports, maps, configuration of the asset, documents related to the assets, maybe contact persons for the assets. All those are different entries to the same asset information process. So let's have a short look at what we've done for a wastewater condition monitoring environment, where we took everything on the information of the assets into that AssetWise ALIM product. So you see it here in operation. I shortened the video, but we're actually in this case starting from the map. We could start anywhere in that AssetWise concept, right, from any angle on the asset, but here we can start on the map. So you'll see the new Bentley web browser, and you see objects with map layers displayed, and every single object that you can see can be visualized and again also retrieved from the map. Obviously, it's not about the map and the representation. It's basically about the information that's behind it, right? So, and that is all the asset information, as deep as you want to go about that asset. And if you want to relate people or activities or whatever to that asset, it's all there, right? But it's also retrievable from the map layer. And that's the important message that we want to convey. There are not so many asset information management tools that have the full mapping interface. So another topic is asset reliability. So we have a software called Asset Performance Management. That asset performance management is, let's say, a very strategic and also structured approach to asset reliability, where you have all kinds of different failure modes that you can design from the start on your assets. Now, the importance of that is basically that while the assets hierarchy may be coming from ALIM, or it may be also coming from SAP, sorry for the quality of the video, but we maintain a relationship between that engineering model in 3D and the asset information, right? So you have the model, and you can look in the asset performance hierarchy what the status of the asset is, if there are any alarms, and if we have to maybe change something or go there and fix it, right? So the whole idea of this basically is that you have a very structured maintenance program on your assets coupled with 3D models, right? So it's one integrated environment on asset performance. So then a third area that I wanted to show you is operational analytics. Operational analytics is a software environment that is capable of displaying all the operational data that you have on your assets. And not only that you currently have, you can also use forecast data, right? So, and if you would be a water company, for instance, then you would be able to predict probably on the usage of your water. And if you have pumping stations, if you have reservoirs, you have a certain pressure that you need, not only now, but you want to have it, you want to know in 2 days what do I need at a certain point. And that balance against the cost for energy for the pumping of all the stuff, right? So AssetWise operational analytics is able to consume all the data, do analysis over the data, and on that statistics show that in all kinds of different forms, including in map form. Right, so visualization of how your valves are or your pumps are, predicting the water production, fully 24/7 monitor the data, etc., and have mobile technology integrated. So our example customer is in South Australia, and they were able to save 3 million, it's not US dollars, but let's say $2 million US in energy. Right, so it's a very important amount of money that's investment on the operational analytics completely paid back for its implementation. So one other screenshot of how it looks like. So the map again is a very important entry, and anything in the map is also interactive, and you can display all kinds of different themes inside that interface. So another major European utility had a similar, and I cannot mention the name, but had a similar return on investment on, again, the pumping for treatment plants and filtration equipment. Now, if we look into that area, I'm now showing you a video actually that starts with the background of what we are talking about today, about that context capture. You're seeing here a substation being displayed, and you'll see that technology more and more. So you know it's a 3D model, right? So you know exactly where it is, but it's also that you will be able to get to a detail where you actually see what the, what's written on that device. And now you can click inside that 3D model and then jump back into the operational analytics. And you'll be able to get information, real-time information at that point, on the status of that equipment as being reported by the operational technology sensors, right? So the status of your transformer. So that is actually the idea, the basic idea. You have different views on your assets, and we have the tools to include all the IT, all the location data, as well as the operational information. So on 3D context capture, you'll see anything that you want today, all right? So, and then lastly, the performance modeling is part of the AssetWise environment. All kinds of mapping scenarios, design scenarios, where we want to play with the different planning options. And the latest that we've done is, and I'm again starting from a 3D model, right? So which is, let me say, nowadays is a standard. It's not that you need your 3D design anymore in CAD. No, you do it on the 3D model. So this is a product called Concept Station. It's actually able to quickly design in a full 3D model, obviously. This is a design of a new extension within our Open Roads portfolio. So it's, again, design, as I said, but it started from the asset management layer, right? So you have a certain type of road and bridge, you model it quickly, and you'll have it displayed within that 3D city model. So, and with Luminaire T, you can then, again, add some of the nice trees and lightings and winter, autumn, etc. You'll see more of that today. So that is the asset performance modeling, and lastly, the whole product suite obviously comes with an enterprise interoperability, because we understand that within your companies, it's not only the Bentley software. You have your SAP, you have your Maximo, you have possibly ArcGIS, all kinds of different sources. And we connect to those through our connecting technology within AssetWise. So, well, with this slide showing the AssetWise technology, the backend being IBM or Oracle or whatever, being able to manage everything that you have on asset information management, that actually is the goal of AssetWise, and we hope to be supporting that asset management operation of you to the best that we can.